so I called Doug to have him come talk with us. And I said, Doug, I know you're in the financial services industry. Are you going to be able to translate your message to a group of entrepreneurs? I said, we have people who are in the roofing business. We have people who are in retail. We've got people who own restaurants. I said, it's a really diverse group of business owners. Can you translate the things that you've taught me over the years to this group? He said, Sean, we've known each other a long time, but you may not know this about me, is that I also have spoken at the National Conference for Roofers for a couple of years. I own a lumber yard. I have the largest restaurant in Minnesota. I think I can do this. So I have no worries about Doug. So Doug, I want to welcome you. Big round of applause.
Thanks, Sean. Well, the mic's on. It's working. Good morning, I think, still for a couple minutes. So it's good to be here. And I need a reaction. Sorry to, pretty soon I'll get you to stand up and stretch, and then I'll have a standing ovation. So there it'll be working. So it's great to be here, and I appreciate Sean inviting me and seeing Jeff again and different people that I've had a chance to get to meet over the years. As he was mentioning, I'm kind of a serial entrepreneur. He knew me as an executive of a big company, which is Ameriprise Financial right now. It was at the time when I became a senior executive. It was IDS. I don't know if any of you remember the name IDS. A few of you do. It used to stand for something. It stood for Investors Diversified Services, but nobody knew that. So we changed the name to IDS Financial Services, and then the initials meant nothing because it would have been redundant to say Investors Diversified Services, Financial Services. So IDS meant nothing. It was just the biggest building in the state of Minnesota, and so everybody knew of the IDS Center. And the company IDS went away. It was replaced. It actually didn't go away. It just changed its name, became American Express Financial Advisors. Now it's Ameriprise. And the IDS Center is still the IDS Center because no one knows what else to call it. I know there's, sporting facilities sometimes don't ever really lose their name. But I've been pretty much a serial entrepreneur my whole life. Before I started my career in the financial services industry, I was 21 when I started. I had founded a company in Minneapolis called Minneapolis Circulation. And at that time, I owned the circulation rights to what became Minneapolis St. Paul Magazine. I had done some work in phone sales for Time Life Books, started this company, and I'm this 20-year-old kid. I used to wear a flannel shirt and a necktie to work, just be funny. Had long hair at the time. My grandson thinks, I said, I have a picture of me when I was young. I look a lot like you. And he says, but Grandpa, I have hair. I said, that was painful. But I used to have hair. And so I remember going over to the post office. I won't tell you the story of the company so much, but this little part of it was really fun. So I'm this 20-year-old guy. I'd never been older. And by the way, none of you have ever been older than you are now. So this is it. This is as old as all of us have ever been. And that's relevant, and we'll talk about the relevance of that in a minute. But I'd go over to the post office, and it would be stuffed with envelopes with checks in there. And I used to do this little dance. And then I'd open up the envelopes and have all that money. And I was stupid even though I was smart. And part of my stupidity was because I was smart. I thought I was smarter than I was. I don't know if any of you smart entrepreneurs have ever done stupid things because you thought you were so smart. Anybody accomplish that?
I got one arm.
Is it? Yeah. That happened to one of my colleagues. He was stupid, and that's what happened, unfortunately. But, so I do currently own 4 lumber yards, or I'm one of the partners in 4 lumber yards. I do own the largest dinner theater in the country, or I'm the principal owner, not the only owner, which happens to have the largest restaurant in the state of Minnesota. We serve 1,000 meals a day. It's called the Chanhassen Dinner Theaters. If any of you are ever coming up to the Twin Cities and would like to go to the theater, I know somebody that gets you tickets, good seats. So I'd be happy to do that. So I'm involved in businesses now. I currently run a company called Think to Perform. But before founding it, I was this executive that Sean remembered, and I ran this business at American Express Financial Advisors, IDS before that, organization of 17,000 people. So I was thought of more as an executive than an entrepreneur, but I always thought of myself more as an entrepreneur than as an executive. And then now I'm an entrepreneurial executive. So that's how you want to be. I used to always tell people, if you want a guaranteed income while you have a job, go work for somebody. If you want a guaranteed job and can tolerate fluctuating income, go ahead and start your own business. How many of you have experienced anything related to that? So that's where we're at. And I know this is a great group. I actually have participated in groups like this. I've spoken to many of them across the country. And then I was part of a group that actually served a bunch of different executives, small business owners, great discussions, and I understand you guys do the same thing. And I'm not 100% sure how each of the groups work. Sean was sharing with me a little bit about how his group worked. One, you talk about things, you're honest with each other, you tell the truth, and you get to say things to each other that you can't say to anybody that works for you. And so you learn from one another. You ask good questions. You don't give each other advice, although I bet it slips in once in a while. It's pretty hard not to slip it in. If I won't give you any advice, but if I were you, what I would do is, don't take this as advice. It's just what I would do if I were you. So today we're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about, and I know your groups maybe focus on business, sometimes personal, sometimes self-development, and those are all terrific things. It's actually very consistent with Jeff, what you were talking about. When Sean was mentioning that to me, there's this little acronym that I taught everybody. It's called WIDY WIFY, WDYWFY. What do you want for yourself? And the concept is, and here's how I thought about it, and still how I think about it, whether it's a small business or a big business. And our theater is a mid-sized business. We do about, we employ 300 people, and one of the reasons I bought the theater was to save those jobs, because the business was 3 weeks from going out of business. And for the first 3 years, we consistently lost money. And for the last 8 years, last year being an exception, we made money. And in fact, we've now on an annual basis, when we're running well, we make more money than we paid for the theater every year. And the investors like that, as you might imagine, so that works for them. All the employees like it, and the employees are loyal. I've always believed the foundation for growth is retention. Keep what you got. Keep your customers. Keep your key employees. Trade those marginal employees to your competitors. You should go work for somebody else. I got a company in mind. And I'll give you a reference. Now, that wouldn't be what you would do, but it's funny. It's kind of funny to think about it. And so this notion of witty whiffy was really, I recognized that if people like Sean and Jeff were achieving what they wanted for themselves and they were working with us, if they were getting out of life what they wanted for themselves and their family, for their professional careers, their personal lives, and if they were feeling like they were developing and growing, then they would stay with us. And as a result of that, we grew. You know, in the 13 years that I ran the retail distribution business, we actually grew from making $60 million a year to making over $1 billion a year. We increased earnings every quarter by 15%, quarter after quarter, year after year, never missed a beat. And at American Express, we were referred to as the crown jewel, and we kept growing. You know, it was interesting because in 1999, our number of, we lose advisors, the company would lose advisors, but we lost fewer advisors in 1999 with an organization of 10,000 advisors than we lost in 1984 with an organization of 3,000 advisors. And this is how you make a lot of money. You keep who you got, keep your customers. Then when you add a customer, it's actually a net gain. People keep coming back. I'm an Adam Smith kind of guy in my view of economics. His most famous work is Wealth of Nations. His best work is A Theory of Moral Sentiments. And he talks about the butcher, you know, the butcher, and the butcher, people kept coming back to the butcher. So he talks about it's in the business's self-interest. He refers to enlightened self-interest, and all of you as entrepreneurs, you get this. It's in your self-interest to act in the interests of your customer. If you act in the interest of your customer, guess what happens? They keep coming back. They'll even tell somebody about you, and then they'll come. And then you're going to get more customers and more business and so forth. So we're going to talk about leadership. We're going to talk about, might even throw witty whiffy at you again. I wasn't going to, but I did already, so I might again. But we're going to talk about leadership. And I'm going to start with a question, which is, what is leadership in your mind? And is it the same thing as management? That's two questions. And this is interactive.
I'd say leadership is bringing people together to bring value for customers, shareholders, and the community. And managing people, I would argue, is almost impossible. But trying to manipulate people to get a desired outcome.
Yeah, well, I actually really like what you said about leadership, and I kind of enjoyed your twist on management being more of a manipulative thing, which is not generally thought of as a good term, but I like that. Any other comments? Yeah.
I think leadership is when you teach your people to accomplish their goal, and then management is how you hold them accountable during the process.
Okay, I like that too. Anybody else?
One of my favorite sayings were, managers are always trying to climb the ladder, and a leader is making sure the ladder is against the right wall.
Ha! Wow, I like that. I'm going to borrow some of this stuff, by the way, but I'll give you attribution. I like that. Well, I'm going to take a little different twist, and I'm going to say leadership is all about what one does to influence the behavior of others. Leadership is about people. Management is about things. You manage a budget, you manage your technology, you manage processes, but you lead people. And hopefully you lead them to put the ladder on the right wall. I like that. And you get their best efforts by helping them achieve their goals. And if they achieve their goals, if you've hired right, people want to be better at what they do than you need them to want to be. My guess is in every dimension of your life, you want to be better at what you do than the people around you need you to want to be. So the opportunity isn't to get to be what they want you to be, it's to get you to be what you want to be. You want to be outstanding. How many of you have children? How many of you want to be a mediocre parent? We got no votes for mediocrity. How many of you are in a relationship with a significant other or a spouse? Most of you. How many of you want to be good at that? Really good, great. And you all have businesses. How many want your businesses to be great? Right, so that's it, that's the deal. So the deal is all about helping people be who they want to be. And if you've hired right at your business, they want to be better at their job than you need them to want to be. So get in touch with what they want. That's the essence of Witty Whiffy. So leadership is about people, and I would say that leadership is about influencing. We set vision, we establish goals, we put all these things in place. We inspire people, we motivate, we do different kinds of things to help people get engaged. So to me, leadership, and I asked Sean for this new technology. Some of you have seen this. These are called flip charts. This is just emerging. It's emerging technology. Leadership equals influence. Now, this is the Socratic part of the presentation. If leadership is about influencing, what is followership about? Socrates would basically lead you down a path by asking you questions for which he already knew the answer. If leadership is about influencing, what must followership be about?
Accepting that influence.
Believing?
It's about being influenced. Leadership is about influence. Followership is about being influenced. Now, as it relates to that, got a little scribbly there. As it relates to that, I'm going to ask you two questions that'll underscore my position on this. And since I'm the speaker, I get to share with you my position. Does at least some of what you observe influence you? Does it? We were talking Texas. Texas could be its own country, and you're willing to be the president of Texas, yes, and your first name is Laura? Yeah.
At least negotiate the exit.
Well, the idea she has, which is pretty good, is that you wouldn't have to have an army because you could call on the United States to defend you. You wouldn't have to have any money because you could get a handout from the United States. Be great. What an idea. That's why Texit comes up every once in a while. And you're the only state in the union that actually can become your own country. You're the only state that can have your own grid. You're the only, so everybody else is on a grid and not Texas. So you got your own show going, which is kind of cool. Texas is a big place. It's currently one of 50 United States that aren't that united. But at least we're still called the United States. I think they're going to keep the name temporarily. It's now it's becoming an interim name. They just haven't figured out what to call the country, so we don't know. So we could do that. We could probably do that. But some of what you observe from your fellow Texans and some of what you observe from other people that you interact with, or the news, or whatever we call it, editorials that you, like how many of you are pretty good at turning on the radio or the TV and finding a station that will tell you your point of view. How many of you are good at that? Yeah, most people are. That's called a confirmation bias. We prefer input that confirms our opinion. And we don't even need very many people who share our opinion. It's just one other person is adequate for me. You know, I have an opinion, and I can find it on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or some of the emerging news. They're not really news networks. They refer to themselves as news networks, but they're basically opinions. And we all know where to go to read our opinion, to hear our opinion, to watch someone talk about our opinion. We all know where to go. And I always find it interesting on election night, I will flip back and forth between the stations, the one that's going to essentially tilt left and the one that's going to tilt right. And they will have their experts on analyzing the same election that I'm watching. And it's remarkable how they can get the same input and come to totally different conclusions. It's unbelievable how good we are. Now we have alternative facts. I love that. We don't need facts anymore. We got alternative facts. Let me give you some different facts. What are these? These are alternative facts. I like that. So and all that influences us, right? Let's second question. Is at least some of what you do observable? So some of what we observe influences us, which means we're followers. And some of what we do is observable, which means we're leaders. Everybody's a leader. Everybody's a follower. How many of you have leaders that work for you who don't have management titles? They're influencers. How many of you have such a person? These are influencers. And if they're really good at it, what do they do for your environment? They make it go better. You don't have to give them a management title. Managers are appointed by someone who has the authority to appoint them. Leaders are chosen by followers. It's a little different gig. So with this as a backdrop, I was told I should limit my remarks to 3 hours, and so I will do that. Not enough of you have heard me speak before, but I'll share with you what those who have heard me speak come to know about me. I actually am never done, but I stop. So I will stop on time, and I will not be done. I just want to manage your expectations. So we're going to talk about a leadership logic chain. We've already defined leadership as influence. So effective leadership of others, effective relationship with others, effective influencing of others is a function of effective management of self. So how well I deal with me is going to have everything to do with how effective I am at influencing you. Does that make sense? I forgot to mention that the reason I started Think to Perform is I've always been interested, ever since I was a little boy, I've always been interested in the answer to 2 questions. Question number 1 is, why do people do what they do? Why'd he do that? Why'd she do that? And the really insightful ones of us say, why'd I do that? But most of us are quite fine with ourselves. We tend to judge ourselves based on intent. We judge everybody else based on behavior. You suck, I'm fine. Why? Well, I meant well. I hear your misstatements. I see your misdeeds. I observe your mistakes. But I'm fine. that's why I should have said this. Today, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about everybody else in the room. So I'm talking about the person sitting next to you, not you. This isn't about you. But it's good for you to know about them. Does that make sense? Is that a reasonable thing? So why do people do what they do? Question number one. And question number two, is it possible that one could really be who they would ideally like to be more often? Is it possible I could be my ideal self more often? What do you think the answer to that second question is? Yes or no? This is, yeah.
We're thinking about it.
Yes. Now, if the answer to the second question is yes, if I could be my ideal self more often than I am, what does that suggest is true? I'm not my ideal self all the time. And in order to be my ideal self more often, I am going to have to change. Not you, me. That's where this thing deteriorates. Right? I mean, the whole concept deteriorates when it starts to become me. No. I'm fine. If these other people, I get companies that call me in to actually help their people behave better. They're fine, the executives are fine. We're fine, but the people, if it wouldn't be for the people, this company would be awesome. So if you could get them to behave, that'd be terrific. And I say, can't do it. I say, why not? I said, because you're the boss. What? How many of you have found that you can't, you said that you doubt that you could actually get anybody to do anything? Or you said it differently, better than I just said it, but it's pretty hard. How many of you have found that it's hard to get other people to do what you want them to do? It's not easy. So change is not easy. How many of you have found that even when you want to change, it's not easy? Like I've decided I want to lose weight, get in shape. That would suggest I currently am overweight and out of shape. So I'm perfectly qualified to say I want to lose weight and get in shape. I read Dr. Phil's book. He said, if you want to lose weight and get in shape, you should exercise more, eat less, presto. Now, he said that in about 300 pages. That's a quick book review if you want to know what's in there. It's not, you didn't need to write War and Peace to say that. Now, how many of you knew that? Yeah, what's the hard part? Those two things. Exercising more and eating less. So, and by the way the brain works, in answer to the first question, why do people do what they do? What we study is behavioral science. We integrate neuroscience, the study of the brain, with psychology, the study of the mind, which operates within the brain and isn't the brain, and we bring in real life experience. The brain wants you to repeat behavior. The mind has the authority to override the brain. So think of the brain as a musical instrument and think of the mind as a musician. When your mind plays the instrument, it physically changes the instrument. That's called neuroplasticity. You don't need to know this, there's no quiz. You just need to know I know. There's 3 levels of understanding. There's simplistic, there's complex, there's profoundly simple. Simplistic, you would have all left the room already. If it's too simple, I'm not in. If it's too complex, I can't get it. But if it's profoundly simple, simplicity on the other side of complexity, I can get it and I can use it. And that's my goal today. I want you to get it and I want you to use it and I want you to start using it today. And I'll share with you a couple of to-dos so that you actually have something to start doing that will help you with the implementation of all of this. So how well I deal with me has everything to do with how well I relate to you, how well I lead others, how well I influence anybody. Now, this is a high-achieving group by definition. I'll ask you, how many of you have achieved having a difficult day? Pretty much everybody. A couple of you just never vote. No, but I'm sure you have a point of view even though you're not voting.
Every system produces exactly what it's designed to produce.
Say again?
Every system produces exactly what it's designed to produce.
Absolutely. We're perfectly designed to get what we get.
Yeah, so our complex days are just the result of our plan to have a really bad day.
Yes, and so we can have a bad day. How many of you have ever come home from a difficult day only to find people in your household inappropriately upbeat? Yeah, so this has happened. So what are some things you can do to make these otherwise happy people feel less good? What have you tried? You can do this at work, by the way, too. So you come to the office or your store or wherever you're working, and you're coming from, you started your day, it was a difficult day. I got on the airplane this morning at 6:30 or something like that, and they said, how's your day? I said, fine. I mean, so far, ask me in about 12 hours. But I'm doing great so far. I haven't done anything wrong yet, but I will. I'll make some mistakes today. So what do we do? What do you do to make otherwise happy people feel less good? And it's fast. You're good at this. You're so good at this. You can make happy people feel less happy really fast. So what do you do to do it so fast? This is really a high influential kind of technique, or techniques. There's several. What do you do? Yell at them? How many of you have found that yelling at people helps? I did this. I have 3 grandchildren. My youngest are 5 months old, so I don't yell at them. My oldest is 14. I've yelled at him 1 time in his whole life. That was my mistake, because I made a mistake. I was having a difficult day. He was at my house in what he called our office. And he lived in LA at the time. He's back living in Minneapolis. So he was at our house, and I was having a difficult day, and my phone was talking to me, and the things it was saying were irritating. I don't know if you've ever gotten your phone saying stuff that irritates you. Any of you ever get anything like that, where the object is talking to you and it's not saying good things, or it's not saying things that feel good? So I, in the presence of not feeling quite right, he asked me a question, and I snapped at him. And instantaneously, he started to cry. My son happened to arrive just about 10 minutes into him still crying. Now, I recovered quickly. I was fine almost immediately, and I said I'm sorry and everything. Guess how that worked? Didn't work. So my son walks in, Dylan's crying, he goes, what's happening? And I said, I was just doing some research. He said, what? I said, well, I had heard that if you yell at a happy person, they won't feel as well right away, and I just thought I'd try it with Dylan, and sure enough. Right? Now, would I do that ideally? Would that be my ideal self? No, that's my real self. And that's because I made a poor decision. Decision-making. And you're a decision-making body where you help each other make decisions. So how good you are at making decisions, real-time decisions. Now, we're nice people, and so when we do something regretful, like I did with Dylan, what do we do there shortly thereafter, or a little while after, sometimes a long time after? What do? We're good people. We apologize. So what I'm going to share with you is how to avoid needing to apologize. But for those of you who like to apologize, I want you to be able to learn this line. You say, Sean, I was going to say something that I was going to regret to you, and I want you to know I would have been sorry. Because I like apologizing. You okay with that? So instead of yelling at you, I'm just going to skip it. Because I knew after I yelled at you, at some point, I was going to say, you know, I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. So does that help you, those that like apologizing? You can go ahead and not do what you would have apologized for, apologize for it, and just to, say, this is what I would have done, I didn't. And so I would have been sorry, though, and I want you to know. I'm really good at saying I'm sorry. Decision making, real time. And that's a function of self-awareness. This is the whole chain, luckily, because we're out of space. So bottoms up. It's self-awareness first. It's effective decision-making second. It's effective management of oneself third. It's effective leadership, effective relationships fourth. This is why working with executives who want to start at the top doesn't work. It doesn't work because it has to start with self-awareness. They don't realize they're the problem. Now, how many of you, well, here's the grade of course in this logic chain. The grade of course is people who lack self-awareness, of course, don't know. Do they? Because what would they be if they knew? They'd be self-aware. How many of you know someone that if you see them first, you act busy? Can't talk. On the phone. That looks like a marker. New phone. You see them at the grocery store, at the gas station, in the building. Maybe it's the same person you run into in an elevator frequently. You look down. Elevator etiquette. I work with an actuary. He says an introverted actuary looks at his own shoes or her own shoes. And an extroverted actuary looks at yours. He's an actuary, so he gets away with that. I think it's kind of funny. So this is the logic chain. Now, this begs the question, how will I know I'm managing myself well? How will I know I'm managing myself well? How will I know that I'm making the ideal real? How will I know that? Can I be my ideal self more often? Yes. How will I know when I'm being ideal? And the answer is the alignment model. This is our Swiss Army knife. We use the alignment model for pretty much everything, and you're welcome to use it. Please do. 3 frames. We got the reality box. We got the ideality box. Reality is a combination of 3 things: thoughts. I ran out of room there. Emotions or feelings, I use those words interchangeably, and actions. We also show this in the form of a triangle. Thoughts, emotions, actions. And I'm going to teach you a self-awareness exercise right now, and I encourage you to start using it today. Because the way this works is the sooner you do anything related to what you get out of this session, the more likely you're going to get something out of this session. Otherwise, what you'll get, hopefully, is you'll feel good. I don't remember what he said, but I felt really good. I laughed a few times. It was kind of fun. It was entertaining. Had a good lunch. Got to see some people I enjoy. Laughed a little bit. But if you actually do something, you can benefit from this. Here's the game. It's called the freeze game. And I actually, Michael, do you go by Michael or Mike? Mike, I'm going to have you, somebody, whoa-de-do, do-de-do-de-do-de. Here we go. These all say the same thing. Just read any one of them.
Freeze.
And then keep going.
What are you thinking?
What are you thinking?
How do you feel?
How are you feeling?
What do you do?
What are you doing? That's it. We send thousands of these out every day all around the world. I get them multiple times a day. The way the brain works is practice makes permanent. Practice does not make perfect. Whatever you repeatedly think, whatever you repeatedly do, gets wired into the habit center of your brain. Most of what you do because you did. My guess is most of you have a routine, and you implement that routine every day. How many of you do pretty much the same thing every day when you get out of bed? Whenever you brush your teeth, or wash your face, or take a shower, or drink some coffee, or smoke a cigarette, or whatever it is that you do. You just do it the same way. And then when you get to wherever you're going, you do the same thing that you did the last time you got there. Some of you, first thing you do is open your email, and then the rest of the day you spend reacting to someone else's plan. You listen to your voice message and you react to what was said. We're talking about being proactive. We're talking about deciding what to think and deciding what to do. Yes?
Those three things again? The three things that you read?
Yeah.
Say those again?
What are you thinking? How are you feeling emotionally? And what are you doing? That's reality. Thoughts are real. Whatever you're thinking right now, you really are thinking. Emotionally, however you're feeling, and it's not, I'm not talking right or wrong, I'm just talking real. Your thoughts could be totally wrong, but they're real. Does everybody get the difference? Emotions, whatever you're feeling emotionally, you really are. Now, this is where it's a little unfortunate for men. I'm a member of the Consortium for Research on Emotional Intelligence in Organizations, which is a ridiculously long name, CREIO.org, CREIO.org. And the academics who created the consortium didn't want to have a descriptive paragraph, so they put everything in the title. You know, it's Consortium for Research on Emotional Intelligence in Organizations. Please, it took me the first 3 years to learn to say that. You know, but they basically have shown me data, and I'm one of those geeks that believes in science and research, and I know that's weird for some of you, and that's okay. You don't have to say that science stuff is for nonsensical people. But I do, and so I believe the research. The reason they like me is I'm not a researcher, although I have a research institute. It's a nonprofit that sits aside Think to Perform. It's called Think to Perform Research Institute. And we do research on leadership, purposeful, emotional, and morally intelligent leadership. And so we help sponsor PhD students, primarily, people who are real adults. They didn't just go to school all their lives. They did some stuff and then they went back to their PhD. And then we give the research away. And we use it ourselves, and I use the consortium to research. But they basically tell us that men are less predisposed to be emotionally intelligent than women. That doesn't mean men can't be. It just means they frequently aren't as emotionally intelligent. And most men, if asked to name some emotions, can get up to 5 or 6. You know, they don't realize there's more than that. I actually have, where did I put it? I had my little, oh, there it is. I'll actually show you what I have. If any of you want something like this, I have a little version and a big version. Look at that, 2 sides, all those words are emotions. Like, how am I feeling right now? I'm feeling a little clever. Where is what I like here? I feel a little impish. I feel lighthearted. So those are things most guys would never think of. Most guys think of, well, I'm either mad or I'm not. I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm afraid. That's about it. That's all there is. But the idea of knowing your emotions, and if any of you want these, I'll actually send it to you for free. We actually charge $5 a piece for these. Margins are terrific. But because you were kind enough to invite me here, I would do that for you. But just pay attention to yourself. What am I thinking right now emotionally? How am I feeling right now? And what am I doing right now? And there is no nothing. There is no nothing. I'm not doing anything. Wrong. You may be clueless, but you're sitting there, feet are on the floor, they're not, they might be crossed, your eyes are open or they're closed, you're smiling or you're not. Now, most of us don't realize how much our bodies and faces say to people because we lack self-awareness. I remember we were on a flight, we had gone out to see my son, was at college at the time at the University of Southern California. He's happy, by the way, that they're changing coaches. Oh, he doesn't like the coach. He actually used to play college or intramural basketball with what's the guy's name? Was a wide receiver, Keyshawn Johnson. He's on now, this radio guy. This is just between us, but Keyshawn is very competitive. Al is a great three-point shooter. They're about the same height. And Al would smoke him, it would be hitting these threes over Keyshawn. But every time he hit a three, he knew Keyshawn would go down and take a three and miss it. So that was his little deal. That was kind of fun. Anyway, I don't know why I told that story, but things just happened. But pay attention to yourself. Your face is saying something. Oh, I know, I was going down this path. I'll get this real quickly because it's kind of fun. So we go on from Los Angeles, where we watched him perform in a theater production, to Hawaii for an extended time with my wife and my 2 daughters. We got on this one plane, and I get motion sickness, which is a whole nother bunch of stories. But we were on this one flight from one little island to another one of the little islands, and the weather was terrible, and it was just bumpy as heck. And I was sitting in one side of the aisle with one of my daughters. My wife was sitting with the other one, and I could hear my daughter. I have my eyes closed. I'm just trying to hang on. My daughter says, "Are we going to be okay?" And Beth Ann says, "We're going to be fine. Everything's fine." And then she said, "Well, Mom, if everything's going to be fine, why does your face look like that?" Right? Faces tell stories, don't they? What your face is saying, sometimes we don't know. So the freeze game is designed to help you become self-aware. The reason we send them out is practice makes permanent. I think about myself, what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, what I'm doing all day. My phone clicks in my pocket, and I play the freeze game. I don't even have to read it. The only time I read it is when I hand it to someone like Mike and say, "Read this," because I already know it's coming. This is very Pavlovian. You know, bell rings, I salivate. So that's as easy as it goes. I've only got 11 minutes left. That's why I had to get you the freeze game. So that's reality. Ideality is principles and values. On your tables, you actually have a values card deck. People who reflect on their values before making decisions of any kind make better decisions. I value family, happiness, wisdom, integrity, service, and health. And the way I make that a permanent, and the way I make playing that game permanently, I'm going to demonstrate right now, because I'm going to encourage you to consider this. That was good. In the time it took me to do that, here's what I did. Water is the thing that reminds me to reflect on my values. I put verbs in front of my values. So while I was drinking that, I was saying this: love your family, be happy, seek wisdom, behave with integrity, do something of service for somebody else today, make healthy choices. And water reminds me of a healthy choice. I drink Diet Coke, that's not healthy. I don't drink as much as I used to. I used to drink Pepsi Light, but I didn't drink enough of it for them to keep serving Pepsi Light. I would drink 8 or 10 of them a day. It had a picture of a lemon on it, so I thought, well, you know, it's got to be good for you. I don't know if any of you remember Pepsi Light. It's been out of business for years. And then I went to Diet Pepsi, and then most recently I stopped drinking as much, and so I wanted a little more kick, and I thought Diet Coke sounded stronger. So I drink a little Diet Coke. I've been carrying that since I left my car in Minneapolis, and when I got in Sean's car, which is a nice car, by the way, I still hadn't opened it. So I brought it on the plane, warmed it up, got it all the way down here to Dallas, and took my first sip in Sean's car. That will last me all day. Sometimes I can get one of those to last me all week, but I drink a lot of water. If you keep putting the top on, it still has its fizz for about a week. I've been testing these things out, like yelling at Dylan. And so that's what I do. The game, you're going to see there's instructions in there. We do this all the time. I also have, for my team, I carry around, this is a group of young people that I mentor. These are all their values. So I do some, and these are the client-facing resources of Think to Perform. I know everybody's values. I carry them with me every day. Every day. And what we recognize is everybody likes to be treated with respect. One of the most respectful things you can do for someone is get to know what they care about and respect it. Sean has 3 kids. His son's in business with him, his daughter's an attorney in Anchorage, and his youngest is at college, Texas Christian University. How do you think I knew that? I asked him, and then what do you think I did? I listened, and then I remembered. How hard is that? How powerful is that? So when I reflect on my values, I make better decisions about anything, about the work that I'm doing, about relating to my family, anything and everything. And then in the middle is goals. This is where Witty Whiffy comes in, purpose and goals. I need to think and do what's necessary regardless of how I feel. So I got to think the right stuff, do the right stuff, even if I don't feel like it. How many of you have some days where you're not as pumped up as other days? And you still got to do what you have to do, right? That's a good habit. Most of what you've done, well, most of what you do because you've done. We are creatures of habit. That's stored in a place in our brain called the basal ganglia. And the reason we act habitually is to free up our brain to do more serious thinking. So a lot of what you do, you don't have to think about. You walk, you sit down, you stand up. These are all things that, my grandson, the youngest one, is 5 months, almost 5 months old. He is 5 months old, actually. Turned 5 months on the 7th. He's barely able to, he can roll over now. And this kid's big. He's wearing 1-year-old clothes. And his cousin is 2 weeks older than him and half his size. He weighs 22 pounds. She weighs 11 pounds. When they sit next to each other, he holds her hand and you cannot see her hand. It's just so amazing. Big kid. But he's trying to move. Eventually, he's going to learn how to move, and then crawling will become easy, and then walking will become easy. Remember when little kids start to walk? Come on. Every ounce of energy and thought is being put into just walking. But how much do you think about it now? Never. You just stand up and start walking. Unless you have a stroke or something, you might have to learn how to do it again. Most of what you do because you did. Oh, we're coming to the end. Alignment. Now what happens is we sometimes disconnect. Alignment is not a lifetime achievement award. I don't live in alignment all the time, but people who understand and practice will get back in alignment faster. That's all. No one's perfect. We look for progress, not perfection. But destructive emotions, moral viruses. What's a destructive emotion? Jealousy, greed. Again? Anger. Yeah, a lot of times, by the way, that's why they send some folks to anger management classes. They get angry, and then they do something they shouldn't have done. Anger, stupid. This begs the question, does anger make someone be stupid? Must you be stupid when you're angry, or is it an option? It's an option, but it requires that you're aware that you're angry and that sometimes when you're angry, you're stupid. It requires, I have to know I'm angry, I have to know I don't want to be stupid, and so I'm going to make a different decision. Instead of striking you or yelling at you, I'm going to skip it. And I'm going to really be, for that moment, who I would ideally like to be, because ideally I don't want to be that guy. Are you getting how this all hangs together? If you master the alignment model has multiple purposes. I said it's the Swiss Army knife. It's a model for self-management. I use this model to manage me. The most effective leaders live in alignment most of the time, and they help the people they lead do the same thing. So if you get to know the values of the people that work for you, if you get to know their goals, and if you can help them decide to think, not what to think, they get to decide what to think, but help them learn how to think. And most people don't know how to do this. I learned this, I surprised myself because I don't know why, but it came naturally to me. I decide what to think. And that's a competitive advantage, and I'm encouraging you to take advantage of that advantage. And I remember this when I was a manager earlier in my career at what was then IDS, and I was younger than everybody that worked in my district. I was always the youngest guy until I wasn't. You know, I've been the youngest guy and now I'm freaking old. It's just such a disappointment. However, I still feel young. My mind is working, and luckily I can't see my face. So you might see me as old. I'm just looking out. How many of you have realized you never get to see your real face ever? You can look at a mirror image of your face, but it's backwards. You can look at pictures of your face, but you never, ever get to see your real face. Unless your nose is big enough, I can see a little bit of my nose, but I can't see my chin. I can't see my cheeks. I never will. And yet, you'll recognize me by this face that I've never gotten to see. That's the strangest thing. I don't know why I think of stupid stuff like this, but I do. So however I feel, if I feel angry, if I feel jealous, if I feel greedy, I still have to think the right thing and do the right thing to achieve my goal, honor my sense of purpose, consistent with my values and principles. In moral intelligence, we talk about 4 principles. We don't make the religious case, the moral case, we make the business case. Integrity, responsibility, compassion, forgiveness. 2 principles of the head. Integrity and responsibility. 2 principles of the heart. Compassion and forgiveness. And they both, all 4 of those, both of those sets, deliver business outcomes. Integrity produces trust. Responsibility inspires people. I don't know about you, but I'm not terribly inspired by our elected officials who blame everybody and personally are fine. I'm fine, but those people, those people aren't good. And they're doing it today. They've got the Senate Foreign Relations Committee yelling at each other, actually giving their little speeches. I was watching it on the airplane this morning. I gotta say, it's a little bit uninspiring to me. When the markets in the world crashed in 08, 09, nobody took responsibility. One of the books I wrote it's called Moral Intelligence 2.0. The publisher called and said, would you do an update based on what's going on in the world? And so we did. And it was dealing with turbulent times. But at that time, our elected officials who passed laws that said it should be illegal to ask somebody if they can repay a debt. I'm trying to get out of this. I'll come up here. It's like church people sit in the back hoping that the person never comes back there. And here I am like, uh-oh, there he comes. Sorry, go. I'll get back to my place. Where was I? Yes, responsibility is inspirational. Compassion, if you treat people with compassion, you will attract and retain the best. And forgiveness, if you practice forgiveness in the workforce, you can innovate. You cannot help but make mistakes, and you got to be able to let go of those mistakes and move on. Now, some mistakes are terminal. You can't cheat people, can't steal money. You know, I can forgive you, but you're terminated. You're fired. I'm a forgive and remember guy. I'm not a forgive and forget. I just think it's a good idea to remember. I don't know if any of you endorse that thinking, but you're welcome to borrow it. Amongst other things, forgiveness is giving up all hope for a better past. I don't know if any of you are still trying to improve your past, but I've done a research on this and you can't. Tomorrow's not assured. What you got is today. So I can make a good decision today. And my watch is usually a minute fast, 2 minutes fast. It's 1:01. I remember, I don't smoke, but my parents used to smoke, and there was a commercial, 101. Anybody remember that? A silly millimeter longer, 101. No. How about the Marlboro commercial, where the guy would be standing in a cow pasture, and say, come out here where the flavor is. I've been in a cow pasture. I would not use that as a flavorful thing, but it worked for the Marlboro Man. He died from smoking too much, but that's why they have that bumper sticker, stuff happens. I want to say it's been great being here. The cards are yours. They're not my gift, somebody bought them, so thank you. But if you want one of those emotion cards, I'll send it to you, just let me know. For those that care, I text, you can email me, you can Google me. I'm the only Doug Lennox you will find. So I have luckily no other buddy like me. But we're all snowflakes, right? There's nobody identical to us, even if they share our name. But my cell phone, which is the best place to reach me, if you want, you can text me or call me, 612-747-0004. And my email address, I'll give you my email address. I'm better with text, I'm faster. I get so many emails every day that I get to them more slowly. And the only people who text me are people who have my cell phone number. dlennick@thinktoperform.com. 612-747-0004. I've enjoyed this. You probably notice I have fun. It's a great life to have fun, make a living. I've been, I made the mistake when I left American Express to tell my family, I used the retirement word. I had no interest in retirement. I am not interested in retirement. In Texas, I think they call it dying with your boots on. Is that right? I'm going to die with my boots on. Retirement activities just don't interest me. I don't like to play golf. I still have the very last card. I carry it in my console of my last golf outing. I played 9 holes. This was 1975. Card's a little frayed. I shot 41 in 9 holes. That's good enough. I retired. Now I play tennis, and you just can't play tennis as long as you have to play golf. You could golf all day and then hit the 19th hole and you're good. I don't. So I'll be working. You can count on me to be working. Sean's going to keep working too. He may have sold the business, but he's still in it. So he can't quit either. So with that, I'm going to just say thanks to everybody for being here. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come here and hear me. I hope it was helpful. Anybody get anything out of this? Is this an okay day so far? Good. Thank you so much. Mike.